G'day, my name's Mick Holton. I'm the Shooters, Fishers and Farmers Party candidate for Monero, and the purpose of this trip was to get a bit of balance into the debate about land management generally and make sure that people are well informed. So,
my name's Dave Nicholson. I come from Braidwood, got a property down there. I've been riding horses up here for probably the last 15 years. I've got to know a lot of the old people that have been here all their life, and they've been good to show me a lot of tracks, and so I do a lot of riding around up here showing other people tracks that I've learnt, that have been shown to me over the years, and just keep that knowledge going forward, and as much history as I can find out about the place, of the huts and the families, and just like to keep it all going. Yeah, so
thanks.
Pretty much my story.
Okay.
And I'm Ros Sefton. I come up here quite a lot, and I was my family used to drove up through here, bring the cattle up through, and they've got a lot of history of this area, and I just love it. I just keep coming back. The grandkids keep coming back. The kids all come up. So, yeah.
Excellent. Good, Ros.
I'm Wanda Egan. I'm from Nerriga. I've been coming up here now for 3 years. But yeah, love the history, all of the droving tales that all the older folk all tell me, and like learning off the older folk what to do with the horses, and seeing the brumbies, but enjoying time riding my own horse up here.
Excellent.
I'm Leon Meyer. I'm from Benalla in Victoria. I've had the privilege to be introduced to this country probably 12 years ago. Similar to Dave, by the older generation. I now find myself being that generation and trying to pass it down to the younger generation and to preserve it as best as possible. And we believe in sustainable management, keep the park alive, good health for everybody. And it's just a privilege. We don't have anything like that from our perspective as horse riders. We meet wonderful people. You have the most beautiful, enjoyable horse rides around here. And if we can, we would love to keep this going for generations to come.
All right, here we are. We're just riding through a bit of country that's needs a bit of fire through it, in my opinion. Got Leon behind me there, and I'm on a nice quiet horse. We're going to have a look at some other damage, and the purpose of this trip is to get a bit of a feel for how the balance has been lost in our land management. And although I'm with the horse people today, and we're trying to establish that I've been saying that is the problem that we're banging on about with the wild horses, is it a horse problem or a numbers of horses problem? So we're going to go and take a look at some other damage to try and get a big picture of all the problems with our Aussie bush, and in particular the Kosciuszko National Park, and we'll have a look at how we might better maintain a bit more balance. The horse people I talk to are all pretty happy to admit that the horses need management like any other problem we have, or any other species that we have, both native and introduced. I guess for me personally, as a candidate, what I've learnt about this debate, about the wild horse debate, is that I believe the problem isn't the horse. I believe the problem is the concentration of horses in certain areas. It's a numbers thing, not a horse thing. And I'm keen to get your opinion on that as we talk about the various things we've seen. But even on the tracks where people walk, you will see it wears a pad if people walk there. So if you're a bushwalker, if you ride a horse on the same track, it wears a track. In fact, we had a look at some of the Brumby tracks, which were way less compacted and damaged than the domestic horse tracks, so we definitely saw that. I don't think there's too many horse people I've spoken to who would say the horses don't do any damage, because anything does impact. We all know that, and we're trying to be practical about it. What worries me is the extreme green who wants to eradicate every horse and blaming the horse for everything. And for me, it's more about an overarching land management problem. if we start looking at all the aspects of land management, including Indigenous burning practices to open the country up a little bit more, provide healthier country. The Indigenous Australians would tell us that the country is like upside down country currently, where we've got all this growth on the forest floor and nothing in the crown. But to bring it back to horses, I think I'm convinced personally, through my involvement with yourselves and the fishermen, that this can be managed. This can be managed if it's done sensibly.
Yeah.
And why wouldn't you involve the horse people in the solution? Why wouldn't we get you guys involved, get you to the table as per the bill, and get you involved in the solution? Anyone like to talk about that?
Thank you. Well, first of all, from our point of view, thank you so much for making the time. Busy schedule, no doubt, coming up here. It's been an effort, and we are so pleased to have had you here. And it shows from our side, our perception is sincere involvement and belief in what you're doing, and we really appreciate that. This area. So if you look at a map, large areas of this park has been blocked off. Not for walkers, not for riders, no access. But if we just start with simple things like I said, the locking up of the park, if it wasn't as locked up as it is, eradication of blackberries, which are starting to really become infested. Then, we go down the track. There's the pig problem, which is becoming more and more prevalent, and it's a serious issue, we believe. There's the deer that are slowly but surely starting to come across. More and more sign. The horses.
Dogs.
Now, the horses must be managed. I believe that is so important for all of us to work together to find a mutually acceptable solution. There is no one perfect answer to this. But by the same token, I don't think you can overrun one group completely and eradicate them at the expense of the other groups. So it's, in a perfect world, it would be a happy outcome for everybody. And that is sustainable management, check the numbers, have a proper program to manage the numbers and get rid of the horses that are surplus. Even, it sounds cruel, but even culling horses that are swaybacks or broken legs, or we come across them all the time. Those animals should be put down.
Poor as anything.
And it's not cruel. It's a humane thing to do, I believe. But no doubt others will have different opinions.
So I guess what we can learn out of this is locking the park up does not work.
I don't think so.
No.
That's the first. You're not going to get too many arguments from practical people who have been out in the bush. You're locking the joint up does not work. If we're going to be pointing the finger at any sort of group or species that's probably contributed the most to the damage, it's probably humans. Because humans
well and truly
are the ones who have locked the joint up. Humans are the one who have stopped introducing a bit of fire like the Indigenous Australians did. And wherever we put in some human infrastructure, we tend to create little gatherings perhaps where they might have a better source of water, or we might have done something to move animals into a concentrated area. That's something I've seen a bit of evidence of. We were talking about salt being used earlier, and the residue salt in the ground which attracts animals to that salt. So, I think...
Just to add to that, the irony is where the human has become involved here, there's been one driving factor: money. Because the ski fields haven't been put up here to improve people's health. It's a huge tourist attraction, and it's a money generator. The park was never made to be a money spinner for anybody. It was for the use of the public across the board. Snowy 2 going in. It's an essential service. Our country needs it. But there's money involved. It's going to be a huge money spinner for those in control, and my understanding is it's solely federal government owned. So, then there are little pursuits that we are following. There's absolutely no financial gain. In fact, it costs us money to come up here and do things. But we, the people that love the park, and the park was made for us, I believe, originally, or intended to be for us. So please don't take it away from us. Let us enjoy it, and let us let us together manage it and keep it going for the generations to come.
So in terms of park users, we've got skiers, walkers, bike riders, horse riders, fishermen. Have I missed anyone?
Oh, you got the grey nomads coming in
Oh,
now
yes,
with more
yes.
Just
facilities.
people that
Yes.
just like to camp,
Yep.
four-wheel drivers
Fishermen.
perhaps.
And
All of those
they
groups.
tell me a lot of sightseers.
Yeah, I was
and
gonna
I
say
wasn't aware of
sightseers.
this, but locals tell me that there's a huge influx of people that just from Canberra or somewhere come for a drive for the day.
They do.
Yeah,
Come
just
and
come
look
around,
at the
have a look at
Brumbies,
these
come and
huts.
look at the Blue Water Hole,
Yeah.
etc. And all the bakery at Amidaby
Yes.
thrives on that because
Yeah.
there's an influx of people.
So what do you think about, my philosophy is that when we look at these problems, we really shouldn't look at them in isolation. It needs to be a balanced approach. So, and the big push for improved land management across the board is possibly the best solution. And that way we can accommodate some good results for all of those groups, even those that are green, because I always say there's 50 shades of green,
Well, everybody's green to a certain point.
Absolutely.
Hey.
So, but unfortunately what happens in that world, we get the extremism.
Oh, yeah. Yes.
And so if we can all work together to start to to manage our land and reduce the numbers of the horses, if we're talking about the horse debate as an individual thing, big picture is that we should better see improvement.
Yeah.
And we can always revisit these problems down the track.
Mm.
But to turn around and just say, wipe every single horse out, I don't think that's the answer.
No.
I think we need to be smarter than that. So anyway, look, you got my support in terms of, the more I've learned about this debate, I'd be very reluctant to see change, see that bill removed. I think it would be much better for us to get this committee working and get the solutions happening and involve the horse riders in the solution, because when you think about it, it seems crazy to me that it's illegal to take a horse out of the park, yet they want the horses out of the park. There's a classic.
Yes.
The bureaucracy around the whole thing drives me mad.
Mm.
Yeah.
So, pretty simply, we need to involve horse people in managing the horse
Please.
numbers.
And I promise you they'll do it for nothing.
There you go. So that's a good thing. I'm sure the politicians would like to hear that. More money for stadiums.
So with the Wild Horse Act that's now been passed, there's the advisory committee to the minister, which is in the process of happening. But with respect, that's only one aspect of it. There should be an overall Kosciuszko advisory committee, or a group of people working together, a grassroots level, like us around with the fishermen and the walkers and the other people, really putting it all on the table and sorting it out, because we're all doing our little thing now on the side, and then ultimately it's going to come together, and then there's going to be a collision because there's no consensus along the way getting there.
Yeah, so that's a good, sensible point, I think, a good discussion point, because why aren't we bringing everyone to the table? I mean, too often government departments will tick that box. They'll get people on a committee. We see it even with Indigenous input. They'll have that token Indigenous person there. They'll tick the box, they'll make them a cup of tea and give them scones. But do they really listen?
No.
I would have my doubts.
Just got them there to tick the box.
Just ticking boxes. So, and to me, regardless of it's, the major parties often run off, they don't consult. I'd like to know if Mr. Barillero or Bryce Wilson have been out in the bush and gone for a horse ride so they can get your side of the story.
I want to be on record for that. We've tried to contact, and I won't mention specific names, but honestly, the major political parties, we've been in touch with them repeatedly, inviting them to have this kind of discussion with us, not necessarily come for a ride, but just talk to us. Not even the courtesy of a callback.
There you go.
So, that's not right.
So anyway, here I am out in the bush with you guys. I've really enjoyed it. If you want someone in your patch in the Monero to represent a wide range of bush users, but one Mick Holton for Monero. And I must say, I got some good advice to wear these pantyhose while I was riding.
They did the trick, did they?
So they work good. I feel fine. I'm not chafed at all.
You're not.
I'm probably going to cop some flack off me mates for wearing pantyhose, but you know what? I don't care. I've come out the other end okay. Plus, they felt great. Thanks again, guys. It's
so
been a
much
real
for coming.
pleasure.
Thank you.
Yeah, good
That's very
stuff. It's been great.
Thanks very much. Good luck.
No worries.
Thank you. Lovely to meet you.